Let's talk about the race here in Iowa. It's getting really, really competitive, very neck and neck between you and Cruz. There's an entity called Central Marketing Incorporated. It's polling people in Iowa, asking them about different attack lines against you.
Well, that's Ted Cruz.
Well, let me just
be doing that.
He shouldn't be doing it. We don't know. I don't know for a fact that it's Ted Cruz.
I'll tell you what. If you look at his answer, because somebody asked him, "Do you think it's you?" and he went, Believe me, after I saw that, I said, it's him. He shouldn't be doing that. Very unethical.
Well, let me ask you, because one of the potential attack lines has to do with an answer you gave to Frank Luntz months ago when you said that you've never asked God for forgiveness. Do you regret making that remark?
No, I have great relationship with God. I have great relationship with the evangelicals. In fact, nationwide, I'm up by a lot. I'm leading everybody. But I like to be good. I don't like to have to ask for forgiveness, and I am good. I don't do a lot of things that are bad. I try and do nothing that's bad. I live a very different life than probably a lot of people would think, and I have a very great relationship with God, and I have a very great relationship with evangelicals, and I think that's why I'm doing so well with Iowa.
The life you have now, when you say that you try to do good, that sounds very different from decades of tabloid media coverage in New York, in which some of your wilder escapades were.
Well, I'm talking about over the last number of years.
Okay.
I've been, I'm leading a very good life. I try to lead a good life, and I have. And frankly, the reason I'm doing so well in Iowa and leading the polls, including the CNN poll, where I'm 33-20 in Iowa. And by the way, one of the things that I didn't like that Ted Cruz did last night, he said, he's doing so well in the polls. He's not doing so well in the polls because nationally he's not doing well. New Hampshire is doing very poorly.
You guys go back and forth on leading in Iowa, just in Iowa.
The only place he's doing fairly well is in Iowa. That's the only place. If you look at these other places, he's not doing well, and certainly not doing well nationally.
Let's talk about immigration. You've called for a deportation force that would actively eject 11 million or so, however many there are, undocumented immigrants. I asked Ted Cruz about that last week. He said he would strengthen the border, enforce the law, but he said on this program, on State of the Union, that, quote, we don't live in a police state. This was a specific rejection of what I said you were proposing, and he said he's not going to send jack boots to people's door. What's your response?
President Eisenhower, who was a very nice man, I like Ike, that was his slogan. Like mine is Make America Great Again, his was I like Ike. And President Eisenhower, probably the real number is 2.3 million, some people say it's 1.5 million, went through this process.
A lot of people think that's a shameful chapter of American history, though.
Well, some people do, and some people think it was a very effective chapter. And what happened is when they removed some, meaning brought them back, when they brought them back, they removed some, everybody else left. And it was very successful in one sense. So, that's the way it is. Look, we either have a country or we don't. If we don't have strong borders, we have a problem.
Let's talk about an ad that Jeb Bush is running in which he calls you a, quote, jerk. And specifically, he talks about the remarks you made at that rally where many people interpreted, and I know you reject it, but many people interpreted it to be you making fun of a reporter's disability. Now, I have heard from parents of children with disabilities who were really hurt and offended and don't believe your denial. If you could go back and do it again, would you do it differently? I know that you say that you
Yes,
weren't.
I would, but let me just tell you something. I have no idea what this reporter looked like or that he had difficulty, okay? He said he met me in the 80s. He said he knew me in the 80s. He worked for the Daily News. I don't remember that. And I have a very good memory. I don't remember that. But I had no idea who this reporter was, what he looked like, okay? And I give you my word on that. What I didn't like is the reporter wrote a story like 15 years ago about, having to do with the World Trade Center
Right.
and about the dancing on the streets, which was a good story for me in terms of making my point. He tried to take back that story. I said he was groveling. Groveling, you know what groveling means,
Yeah.
okay? And I said a reporter. I didn't know who the reporter was, but I said a reporter was groveling. I'm just imitating a reporter. I was not imitating. I would never. Who would ever do that? If somebody had a disability, who would mock a disability? I would never. I'm a smart person. I went to the Wharton School of Finance, like smart, good student. my uncle professor at MIT and all that stuff. Who would ever mock somebody, especially if you're running for office? I would never do that. Let me just explain this to you.
Yeah.
The word grovel is exactly what I did. I won't even do it again because I don't want to do it again. But the word grovel is exactly what I did. Because he wrote a story, all of a sudden when I was using that story, he took it back. So I said he groveled, he was groveling. I have no idea, I had no idea. And when I watch it, I say, wow, it really does look like that. But what I was doing is showing somebody that was groveling.
So you could
I give you my word on
that. If you
that.
could go back, you'd do it differently.
I would have not done it because it's confusing. Some
Okay.
people believe me when I say it. I mean, I swear to you, that's true. I had no idea.
Okay.
Now, I may have met the guy, but I didn't. How many reporters? You've known me for a little while. How many reporters do I deal with? I deal with hundreds of reporters
Yeah.
a day. I go out last night. I mean, there were hundreds.
But as you
of
even
reporters.
acknowledge, it looked very specific. But I want to move on because
I'm just telling you. I was talking about a person groveling.
Okay.
In this case, a reporter groveling and trying to take something back.
But-
that's what I meant by it. I swear to you, that's true.
Okay.
He said I met him in the 1980s. It's ridiculous.
let's talk about the financing of your campaign. You said that you will self-finance your primary campaign. You are getting some donations. You're not particularly asking for any, but you are getting some.
No, just so you understand. Little donations
Right.
where people send them in because honestly, to send them back would be insulting to the people, and they're for a small amount of
I
money,
get it.
and it doesn't amount to that much.
If you get the nomination, a general election campaign might require $1 billion to run against the Democratic candidate. Would you be willing to enter the public funding program, the public financing program, or would you spend $1 billion or more?
I don't know yet. I haven't thought of it. I'm thinking about this when I'm financing my own campaign. When I get there, it's a little bit of a different story because the party gets involved and other people get involved. And it's a little bit of a different
Are
story.
you reluctant to spend $1 billion of your own money?
Well, I have a lot more than $1 billion if I want to do that. I don't know. I haven't made that decision
I would
yet.
think Ivanka
I
might
have
say,
phase two.
enter the
Ivanka
public
might not like the idea.
Right,
No.
enter the
I think
public
none of
financing.
my kids would like the idea.
Yeah.
But I haven't made that determination. I will tell you this. People love the fact that I'm self-funding my campaign.
Oh, sure, I got it.
They
Yeah.
love the fact. I had last week in Iowa and in New Hampshire, I had a standing ovation. Just when I said, by the way, I'm self-funding my campaign, I had a standing ovation. People love the fact that I'm putting my own money in. That means that unlike Bush, who's totally controlled by these people, and unlike Hillary and honestly Marco and everybody, and by the way, Ted Cruz, he's got a lot of people putting big money in. Probably maybe Goldman Sachs, we'll have to ask. I mean, they loaned him $1 million, so they certainly have control over
Do
him.
you think that Ted Cruz and all the other people you mentioned are more likely to do the bidding of their donors because they got money from them? I mean, is that the direct
Yes.
charge?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, look, psychologically, yes. That's the way it is. Somebody gives them money, not anything wrong, just psychologically, when they go to that person, they're going to do
They
that.
owe them.
They owe them. And by the way, they may therefore vote negatively toward the country. That's not going to happen with me.
Would you take the next step and if you become president, try to have some sort of campaign finance reform so big money is out of politics?
Well, I think you need it because I think PACs are a horrible thing. First of all, everybody's dealing with their PAC. You know, it's supposed to be like the secret thing.
Right.
They're all dealing. Bush had an event where he had an event for his whatever and an event for his PAC, right? For his campaign. and
Right.
his the ballrooms were right next to each other, and the events were simultaneous. Okay? You tell me they're not dealing with each other? So I think PACs are very bad. I think they're very dangerous, and you have to come up. I do think there has to be transparency, but PACs are very bad.
I have never before seen, and I don't think it's ever happened, that there's been a State of the Union address in which a candidate, you, was implicitly criticized, and then a response from the other party in which the same candidate, you, was implicitly criticized. It really was historic. What was it like to watch?
My great honor. It was my great honor because I'm angry. And they both said I was angry. And I get along very well with Nikki. You know, Nikki said we're friends, and we are friends. I supported her. But I am angry. And when she said there's an anger that we shouldn't have, I said, well, I disagree with one thing. There's an anger that we should have. Our country is going to hell. Whether it's ISIS and we can't beat them, our military is really in bad shape. It's not prepared. It's not, you know, it's got a lot of problems and I guess monetary problems and other problems. But when General Orellana left, he said it's the least prepared that he's ever seen it. And he went a lot further than that because he went back a long way before his term. I would say this, people have to be very angry. And the reason I have these massive rallies where we had the other night 15,000 people, and 7,000 people couldn't get into the arena. You saw that. I mean, it was, everybody was stuck, but I have many of them. People can't, we're only judged by the size of the arena. These people are angry. And these are good people. These are great people. These aren't angry people, but they're angry at the way our country is run. You see the 10 wonderful sailors where they're on their knees with a gun to their head and their hands up in the air. And you see that with Iran, and they're only giving them back because they want their $150 billion that's due in 2 days. I think it's disgraceful what's happening in the country, whether it's health care, whether it's the way we treat our vets, which is terribly, whether it's the borders, which are like a leaking sieve, and people are angry.
So
and
you
I'm angry.
take the insults, or the however you want to interpret it, from President Obama and from Governor Haley, you take it as a badge of honor.
I take it as the truth. They said I was angry. They said that the people that are with me are angry, and you will see. I mean, you're going to see the people voting. They're going to be voting very soon. You're going to see what's happening. People are angry, and you know, they're really angry at incompetence. We have people that are grossly incompetent running our country. Every country is eating our lunch. China on trade, Japan on trade, Mexico on trade and at the border. Everybody's beating us. We don't win anymore, and people are tired of it.